It is painstaking work. A lot of it happens behind closed doors. It's vital to the good health of our democracy, using raw legal might to pry loose information from the government that could otherwise and would otherwise remain secret. You may or may not have heard the name CREW before. It stands for Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington, but you have certainly come across and benefited from their good work. They obtain records from the National Archives related to those 15 boxes of documents, some of them marked top secret, that Donald Trump brought with him to Mar-a-Lago. They obtain communications from Florida Governor Ron DeSantis' office having to do with his Migrants to Martha's Vineyard scheme. They uncovered material that indicated Senator Chuck Schumer was the subject of a shooting threat at the U.S. Capitol when it was under attack on January 6th. And that's just this month. Documents related to the effort to overturn the 2020 election, related to how much the Secret Service knew before the Capitol attack, documents related to how much the Secret Service paid to stay at Donald Trump's hotels and various golf properties. CREW was a not-so-quiet driving force behind the unearthing of all of it, going to court, seeking the truth. Now they're calling for action. In a request sent to the House and Senate Judiciary Committees, CREW recommended this. Congress investigate Ginny Thomas for role in trying to overturn the results of the 2020 election, and her husband, Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, for his failure to recuse himself from related cases. Joining our conversation, the president of CREW, Noah Bookbinder. Frank and Harry are still here. Noah, thank you for all that you have fought to get into public view. Tell me how you go about targeting information before we get to Ginny and Clarence Thomas.
Sure. Well, I appreciate that incredibly kind introduction. And, we are always thinking about, particularly when we see issues that may reflect on attacks on our democracy and on our government not working for the people that it's meant to serve, we're always looking for, what information can we get that will help people understand what's going on, that will help people understand who is influencing government in improper ways, and, what are the threats that we need to be protecting against. And, there are fortunately laws and methods out there for getting a whole lot of information if you're willing to be dogged and to go to court. And that's what we do to make sure that the American people, know what they need to know to try to have their government working for them.
At least 3 times in the last couple weeks, I have asked what the source was of something, and it was a lawsuit you had won and documents that you had released. Is it that you are so successful in court, or is it that you are putting, thousands and thousands of efforts and requests out, and the ones that around which you've had success are of great public interest, or is it a little bit of both?
I think it's a little bit of both. We try not to flood offices with an excessive number of requests. We want to be serious that we're really going to try to get the ones that we are asking for. But when there are requests where we don't get what we think we're entitled to, we will go to court, we will litigate. And I think one of the things that happens is that when you show that you're willing to go to court and when you do win some cases, offices start taking that seriously and being much more willing to give you the things that you're asking for if you're actually entitled to them.
So let's turn to Clarence Thomas and Ginny Thomas. It is almost conventional wisdom that the Supreme Court is impenetrable to accountability and ethics, which is why it caught my attention that you're calling for this investigation. Tell me, and go through both Clarence Thomas and the Supreme Court and Ginny Thomas and her role in trying to overturn the election. What is your view? What is CREW's view of accountability and an appropriate level of scrutiny for each?
Sure. Well, Ginny Thomas, along with being a citizen of the United States who was involved in encouraging efforts to overturn an election. We know that she texted with then White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, urging him to take hardline steps to try to overturn the election. We know that she was in touch with officials in at least 2 states, urging them to put up new slates of electors that were different from the electors that the people of those states had voted for. So that's a problem in and of itself. But she also is someone who actually, a lot of people don't know, has a federal position herself. She serves on the Library of Congress Trust Fund Board, which controls a great deal of money, federal money, and somebody working within the federal government who essentially worked to overturn that government. That's a problem in and of itself. We're not suggesting that she was a central figure in those efforts, but she played a disturbing role. I think even more troubling at a time when there's less and less public trust in the Supreme Court is the fact that you have in Justice Thomas a Supreme Court justice who has been ruling on cases about the 2020 election and about the efforts to overturn it when his spouse was in some way involved in those efforts. He was the lone vote against allowing the January 6th committee in Congress to obtain White House communications related to January 6th. It's certainly, we know that Ginni Thomas was in communication with the White House on related issues. That seems like a clear conflict of interest. But even if there wasn't a direct conflict of interest, there is certainly a tremendous appearance of bias. Supreme Court justices shouldn't be sitting on cases and making decisions on cases where the American public is going to feel like they're biased. And that's a huge problem. We know the court is not, as far as we can see, doing anything significant to police itself. And that's why we've asked Congress to get involved and to look into this.
No, has there been any response?
Not as of yet. I mean, we know that the January 6th committee did interview Ginni Thomas, and that was important. I think they're more focused on that plot to overturn the election itself and less on this issue of possible conflicts of interest at the Supreme Court. The House Judiciary Committee has looked into that issue more broadly about the need for a binding code of conduct for the Supreme Court. And some members have talked about Justice Thomas's conduct. So it's not that there's been nothing, but there hasn't yet been a full-scale investigation into this. And we think that it's time for that to happen.